First step was early development. We had about a month where I worked with a couple concept designers before we went to an agency and just threw a bunch of stuff at the wall. And this is some of the stuff that stuck. We came up with a logo system to show team logos. And this is like one of the hardest things to do because everything seemingly has been done before, but we came up with this machine forged aged metal look where we're using multiple materials like this transparency next to aged metal, and it became super unique. And we tried to put as much detail and personality into each one of these logos. We rendered them out of Octane at 4K as stills, and then we sort of use so that we can sort of punch into them and get all the detail. For the FSU logo, we actually added human hair for the first time. Another thing that we sort of came up with in early development was these fabric wrap accents. They're team colored fabric with frayed edges, and we thought these would be nice juxtaposition next to the polished metal, and they became also big players in the insert language. And I put together some frames sort of showing our hero mark being cold, heat, and earth, and that obviously will play a huge role into where the final animation package went with our agency. Next step was to choose an agency. We went with Elastic. I've been wanting to work with Elastic forever. They've done things like the Game of Thrones intro, Westworld intro, and seemingly every great title sequence that you see on TV nowadays. The problem is they work very differently than us. We work in 2 to 3 second animations and they work in minute 30. So we came up with this approach where they would essentially create a title sequence for us as the only thing that they deliver to us, a title sequence that runs a minute 30 for College Football, the movie. And then we created some parameters for them to make sure that we got what we needed in terms of like teams IDs and matchups and typography. And then the hope would be that we would take this title sequence and sort of segment it out and it would feed all of our deliverables. The concept that we came up with was essentially threefold. Game DNA, which would be abstract moments of football. It would be really short moments that were great for transitions. The core of it would be the football factory, which would be a test facility where we would test football equipment, helmets and pads, and put them through their paces and through the elements of wind, heat, cold, and sound. And then we also had the field where everything was sort of taken to the field, but then you realize that the football facility is actually underneath the football field. And these are some of the rooms that we started to come up for the test facility. There are a series of photorealistic rooms created in Cinema and Octane. This is the paint room where a matte helmet comes in, gets painted by a gun, the helmet gets buffed, and the logos sort of get etched on. Heat room, our hero mark is heat tested and paint peels away to reveal team branding. Cold room, essentially cold testing a helmet. But what we started to realize when creating these is that by putting so much detail into each one of these rooms, you can sort of move it around, move the camera around, get multiple angles of footage, and it becomes almost like a photo shoot. You're able to get multiple shots very quickly. Pad room, impact testing shoulder pads. Eventually, we put logos on the shoulder pads and sort of colorize the room. Sound room, how does fan noise affect the hero mark? Wind room, football sort of gets shot out of a cannon and gets impact tested by these smoke explosions. And game DNA, which would be your short transitional abstract moments, dealing a lot with like a heart beating football or like a glove getting knit on. And then essentially we took all of this footage and sort of combined them into our final deliverables. So this would be an end stamp for the shoulder pad room. We can either cut shots, or for the end stamp for the cold room, we can show multiple shots on the screen at the same time, multiple angles. Heat room. And wind room. These were all eventually made into After Effects toolkits. You retain the Octane quality, but you're able to swap the teams very easily in After Effects. We we realized in the process that we have so much product and we have so many games on our air that we eventually decided to create multiple animation packages. We created a package for wind, heat, cold, DNA, pad, and sound, and we gave them to different games. So if you watch one game, you're only seeing the wind elements, watch another game, the heat, and eventually the idea would be that the fan would get the full test facility experience by watching multiple games.